I don't want to hear it, Rocket League fans. I do not want to hear you guys talk about my predictions and how they were wrong, mainly because I am a Ghost Gaming fan and it still is too early to talk about this. Back-to-back regionals being cut short of Worlds, and appearance at, of course, the final/main stage, whatever you want to call RLCS finals going on now here, and we have now solidified our North American and European teams, and unfortunately, Ghost Gaming will not be a part of that because two teams played the upset role, I believe, this past weekend. One was, of course, Rogue, who took down Ghost, and eventually we'll talk about the other matchups in North America, and along with that over in Europe, it was PSG. Both those teams certainly surprised me. All in all, besides, I would say that Ghost and Rogue series, North America was pretty clear cut in terms of our top four teams out there. Pretty well separated, I would say, in that tier list. Of course, NRG are by far and away dominant, clearly cut. They are the most offensive presence team out there in North America and the most dominant, rightfully so. We have Cloud9. They got their revenge on G2 in a pretty dominant one-sided 4-0 sweep as well. G2 retained their third place spot, and Rogue, they play the sleeper in my book, and again, I don't want to hear it, guys, because I'm a Ghost Gaming fan, and this is just disappointment after disappointment. I want to quickly say, I know he's not watching, but Illusion, I really like the way you gel with this roster, and although it's pretty much the same result as last season, I loved the way these guys finished. At one point in time, they were definitely going to be a relegation team. They pulled up the bootstraps, and they fought their best, and they did a very close series against Rogue. If you guys actually watched that series as well, super close. Although scoreline says 4-2, both teams with 2 overtime victories. It was the closest series all weekend long, and still back and forth and still very entertaining. Ghost has long been, with at least 2 of these 3 members, a team who can always extend the series. They proved themselves here, and I would say Rogue, I know there's a bunch of fanboys out there, right? Kronovi has certainly earned his spot in the finals. The way that he has taken a former FlyQuest roster and made them a finals contender, that's amazing. You turn around an overwhelmingly average roster and you make this pretty dominant run here, although they were still pretty close series, but you turn it around and you make Rogue all of a sudden with one roster change a finals team, and that has to be respected. He has been a linchpin for this roster, obviously very fun to watch as well, and I picked against him, and maybe I shouldn't in the future, but when it comes time for finals, I'm still not fully convinced. Like I talked about during that Ghost series, it was still much back and forth, like Rocket League very frequently is, and even against Space Station, yes, the scoreline, it looks pretty dominant, but a bunch of those games, including 2 of those victories also in overtime, it was a closer series than it did come off as, and it wasn't necessarily offensively dominant either, even though there were 2 high-scoring games in favor of Rogue. When they have to commit more offensively, they give up more defensively, and so I've still seen that issue reoccurring. Yes, they found some sort of offensive bug over the past 2 weekends, maybe because of Kronovi and the opportunities he does create. Am I fully convinced, though, this Rogue roster has a chance? No, not whatsoever. But again, when it comes to North America, it was a great weekend. I think we got at least 3 of our 4 kings are there, and Rogue was our surprise team. NRG, Cloud9, G2 are still going to be your clear-cut favorites, with NRG likely to be, from what we've seen so far, especially these past 2 weekends. I love the way how Cloud9 really showed up after a really struggling last month or so in terms of qualifiers as well as RLCS matchups. We know the struggles they have had, but when it comes to LAN performances, never underestimate the former world champions in Cloud9, and I think NRG as well, looking very swift in terms of compared to our European talent, which was also just shocking, because for the first time in RLCS history, it will be Team Dignitas, that trio, at least ever since Turbo joined. They will not be at a finals event for RLCS. It was stunning. If you guys watch my predictions, of course I picked Dignitas to go through, much like I did for Cloud9. Unfortunately enough, we got a double whammy when it comes to Europe because we knew of the threat with this lower bracket. Pretty much it's a single elimination, and when you have a matchup against 2 top European teams, or at least preseason top teams, that being TSM and Dignitas, even being in the lower bracket, yes, one of them goes home automatically, but it was still possible for both of them to go home, and sadly, that is what happened. But everything else before that, of course, a little bit after that series as well, went typically to plan. We had Triple Trouble. They take down PSG, I'd say, relatively handedly. Barca does their thing. They take down sequentially Triple Trouble and make the finals to be eventually against Vitality. There's no surprise there. We knew Vitality was by far and away our most dominant team, very comparable to NRG, I would say, on the North American side, and Barca is probably very close behind, and their series was very, very close. Super fun to watch. Big shouts to those guys. If you guys also know, my second favorite team being Barca, but when it comes down to those other matchups, typically to plan as well, with Dignitas taking down TSM. I think especially over the past 3 weekends, we knew that TSM, much like the likes of Cloud9, was very much struggling. They were on a downswing, and Dignitas was on an upswing, so of course you're going to pick Dignitas in that matchup. I would say one of the biggest upsets of this weekend, a team I have doubted time and time again, and maybe comparable to Rogue, I will not doubt when it comes to the world stage, the final stage, that is PSG. These guys, just surprise me time and time again. They take down Dignitas, I would say even more impressively in their series against Vitality. That series was back and forth and back and forth. Shawset's defense was incredible, and we know when Farah and Fruity do show up, they can do some dangerous things. It's crazy to me how they can look against Triple Trouble, then take down Dignitas and almost take down Vitality. It is crazy how back and forth and inconsistent these guys are from series to series, but when they are on and when Shawset's doing defensive things, they are looking like a sleeper team for Worlds, and I have never been one to really pick a sleeper other than Ghost Gaming. But when it comes across these two regions, I'm not surprised about North America. We knew it was going to be a close matchup between the likes of Ghost and Rogue. So we have our top 3 kings out of North America. Rogue, I guess, is your sleeper team, but that really could have been anyone in their place. And Europe is somewhat of a similar story, but I'd say 2 guaranteed teams. Of course, that being Vitality and Barca. We knew likely they are already automatically qualified, but it's nice to see they are certified as our best teams out there. But being followed by the 2 teams I just had no idea were coming out of this, that being Triple Trouble and PSG. The preseason rankings had nothing correlated with this, but actually our RLCS main season finishes was the same way this did finish. Vitality, Barca, Triple Trouble, and PSG were our top 4 teams, and they proved themselves yet again in the regional event to be our top 4 teams out of Europe, and so it's going to be very surprising to see how they do match up against North America. It's just crazy to see Rocket League continuing to be Rocket League in these series going back and forth. There are not many teams who I would say I am fully confident in having a chance when it comes to LAN, and I'm very excited to see teams like Barca. You know, it's a big jump from these online events to, of course, a big LAN event like that for a trio who's typically new and, of course, new to RLCS. I hope they can actually keep up the pressure and not get too nervous on the LAN stage, not to, you know. So the scene is finally set as we slowly approach. It's going to be so much fun to watch. Regionals was a very, very fun event, very enlightening event, and this time around as we approach finals as well, South America get their first time, of course, on the main stage, and along with that, OCE. I've not been breaking down other regions as I typically don't really follow them too closely because it's too hard to cover all the regions at once, but I love seeing me some CJ once again at LAN finals. It's just going to be an insane final event. It's going to always be hard to compare these regions as well. Of course, you're going to favor Europe and North America, but you never know what OCE team, much like last year, is going to show up, and I just cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun to break down. I hope you guys all enjoy. I will see you back here sometime soon with Rocket League news, and with that being said, sometime very soon, post-finals, we'll be breaking down roster changes because you better believe some teams need some changes. Very lastly, talking about that, we now can pretty much solidify who made the best moves. I think Rogue is definitely one of them. You turn around a roster like that from, I guess you could say, former FlyQuest was still a pretty average team, right? A 4-3 team. You make that one improvement though, and all of a sudden you're a finals team. It's just that much more of a difference. Dignitas, of course, they've fallen pretty much flat on their face for the past 2 months or so. So you could argue Yukio, the worst end of that trade, but I think the biggest one here has to be, alongside Illusion with Ghost, certainly has to be KDOT to Vitality. They have made the best moves this season so far, and it is proving, and hopefully they can prove it again at the Rocket League Championship Series Finals. As always, I hope you guys all enjoy. I will be breaking it down sometime soon, but until then, take care.